one thing I did not expect from Alien Romulus was to come away from it feeling so meh. I admit I'm not the hugest fan of the Alien franchise. I really do like the first Alien movie, and I enjoy the second one as well. I know for a lot of people, the second one is their favorite. It's not mine. The first one is my favorite. And I've seen the other movies. I don't think I saw the very latest one before this. They're pretty forgettable to me, for the most part. This one, I was getting good vibes about, and I didn't watch trailers, I didn't read reviews, but you see and hear things, snippets of stuff here and there. And so I was thinking, wow, this is going to be something that's probably going to be pretty doggone good. And poof, it's not terrible. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. The effects were good, and I really feel like the majority of them, or a good portion of them, were practical. The creatures looked practical to me. They didn't look like they were CGI'd. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was very reminiscent of the first two movies as far as those effects go. And there were some callbacks to the first one, especially little hints of the score, the little sort of, I don't know, it almost sounds fluty, or I don't know, like the whispery type of doo-doo, whatever, I don't know. You'll know it when you hear it. I thought that was a cool touch. And I also liked that it took its time to build up to things really hitting the fan. I remember in the first movie, it's about 45 minutes before I think we've got the infamous, chest explosion thing happening, or him getting attacked by the thing on his face, whatever. It takes a good while for things to get going in the first one. So the fact that it took its time building up to the situation where the characters are going to encounter these aliens, that was not really an issue for me. But by the time the movie was done, and it clocks in at just right around 2 hours, obviously credits shave off some of that, and there's no post-credit scene. By the time this movie was done, it felt a bit too long, and I was glad it was over because I was getting rather bored. I realized by the time the film was done, I just did not care all that much about the characters. And when the film started off, I didn't expect to have that feeling, especially about the two main characters. Let's say, so the setup is there's the main character, the girl. She's the same chick who played in Civil War, and it bugged me so much that I couldn't recognize who she was, but I didn't like her character in Civil War. I didn't necessarily dislike her character in here, but she just didn't really strike any huge emotion of fondness with her. I like the android guy that was with her, the guy she called her brother. She grew up with him basically, so they have a whole story and everything. I like that dynamic, and I like that character probably the most out of all of them, and he wasn't even human. There were some pretty cool shots, especially that tie into the extreme acidity of the alien's blood. There's a moment, it's not super spoilery, but I thought it was really cool how this was done. There's a moment where there's a bunch of alien blood in the air, or that has been spilled, and the gravity is in this Romulus space center, or whatever the heck it's called. It gets shut off, so things start floating. So that means the blood is floating, and it's floating close to, the characters. And if they get touched by it, it's going to severely harm them, and, or kill them. And so I thought that was an interesting scene, how that all was shot and was played out and everything. But it's kind of where my appreciation for this film ends. There were things that started to bother me, and I don't know if it was just that I maybe was missing something. In the first Alien movie, that's kind of like the lore is established. And when John Hurt's character gets that thing on his face, it's on his face for a while. Then it's detached from his face. And then even after that, it's still a little bit before the creature explodes out of his chest. It's not something that happens immediately. Well, the time frame for that sort of thing seems to have been sped up pretty quickly in this movie. And like the gestation period of the creatures, because there are multiple aliens, the gestation period is just way too fast, and also feels like there's way too many grown-ass aliens running around, given the number of humans that there were available to be impregnated by them. I don't know, just that kind of didn't fit very well. And then also there are other things that kind of got under my skin a little bit. The character is a miner. Miner, M-I-N-E-R, not O-R. She has been sort of contracted or obligated to this mining company for the bulk of her life. So how in the world she knows how to do things with the machinery on this ship that they're on, and even do things like leave captain's logs, it just kind of stretched the limits of my ability to buy into it. And there were also multiple times that there were callbacks to previous films that, while I do get that they're trying to show appreciation to these films, sort of to honor them, it didn't really work very well. And there were some times where it was a bit cringe. Get away from her, you bitch, did not work in this film for me like it worked in Aliens. And there were other things like scenes that were very similar to, I don't remember if it was Alien 3 or the other one, you know, that famous shot of Ripley with her head to the side and the alien looking at her and, you know, the mouth coming out. That's it. Like, that was practically, it was pretty much lifted from the movie. And it's like, well, that's not original at all. There were other moments where there were callbacks to the original, specifically a certain character that you will see that I was like, well, okay, that's kind of cool, I guess. But then as the movie went on, it became less cool and just felt like kind of a cheap gimmick to tap into your nostalgia. And so it's I mean, I guess, honestly, if you're talking about this particular world with these types of characters in it, yes, I guess I could buy into it. But the fact that there were these other things that were eating away at me and kind of aggravating me, that was just something else that added to it. I do appreciate the attempt to make this its own little story, but yet have it connected directly with the very first movie. But unfortunately, the characters weren't really established in such a way that I felt a connection to them. And they felt like someone referred to them as throwaway characters and that they lacked depth. And that's exactly how they felt to me. The characters in the first two movies, they each had their own little personalities, and you had your own little sort of emotional connection to each one, and they felt like they'd been pretty well established. Maybe we didn't spend a huge amount of time with each of those characters, but they worked well. In this movie, when characters were getting picked off, I was just like, oh, ho-hum. And it just, like, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel the horror. And it's not that this is a film that is poorly shot, but the whole framework of it, I guess, just didn't really work for me like I expected it would. And that really did surprise me. I didn't expect to come out of this feeling so, you know, there wasn't anything in here that made me mad enough to 1-star it, but I certainly can't 4-star it or even 5-star it. I gave it 3. I honestly feel like downgrading it to like 2.75 or 2.5 because just as a whole, it didn't work for me like the first two did. I know that the overall critic reviews for this are quite high, and I feel like fans of sci-fi horror will probably enjoy it, and maybe fans of all of, you know, the first two films especially, but I don't know if my main issue is that I'm just not huge into this series, or if there really is something going on with the overall story that just is not well established or fleshed out to the point that I guess I expected that it should be. And so, unfortunately, this one didn't land fully for me. I'm not necessarily mad that I watched it, but I could have been doing other things if I hadn't. Oh well. Curious to know what you guys think about it. Maybe it's just me. Okay, I guess that's it for this one, you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.